Hi, it's Ali from Merlin Mosaica. So this morning, I think it's still this morning, I am just going to be working on my mini mandala. Now I've painted it and I'm pretty happy with that colour. And I have my iPad here with my photo of the bead placement I worked on yesterday. And so I'm ready to go, I think. The tools I will be using are, apart from the aforementioned iPad, is I'll be using Apoxie Sculpt in the natural colour. I have got a fine pointy tool. Oops, I've knocked my camera off. So I'm using Apoxie Sculpt in the natural colour, and I do have some solvent here. I have a fine pointing tool and a fine straight-nosed pair of tweezers. I find for this small beadwork, these ones with a very small point are much better. Alternatively, I could also use these little ones as well, but I need something with a fine point. And I'm just at the moment for these using the straight ones, but they're an option. I'm also going to use this little spudger to mix my Apoxie Sculpt, and I've got a selection of pieces that are going to go into the first section I'm working on. Now, as much as I love my SeaBell nippers, today if I need to cut, I'll be using the Lepinets because I find them just a bit better for very fine detailed cutting. For those of you who are not familiar with Apoxie Sculpt, it is an air dry medium and it comes in two parts. So you have to mix them equally and you can't afford to contaminate them. So I've got an old lid here that I'm just going to mix them onto, and with the spudger I'm just going to get a blob of one part, maybe a bit more because I'll be using a bit of it today. Put the lid back on always and clean off my spudger, make sure that it doesn't contaminate the other parts, and get the same amount. Now, some people go to the nth degree and weigh it. I just tend to eyeball it. So that's, I need more. That should be about right. Again, don't forget to wipe the spudger off because you don't want to inadvertently get some contamination, because you will get rocks in your part A or part B. So with Apoxie Sculpt, you mix the two parts together until they are one continuous colour, i.e. there's no marbling showing. I'll be back shortly. Well, I'm back. So what I'm going to do is just move the mandala out of the way so I can show you how I'm going to work with the Apoxie Sculpt. When you mix it up into a big nice ball lump, it actually softens with the heat of your hands. I do advise wearing gloves, particularly if you're using black, which is my normal choice, because it will stain. So you get a flat surface, and I have cleaned this. It might not look it, but it is clean. And you can rub it into long worms. Yeah, it's a bit of a process, but you just need to get some that's not too fat. And you can break it off, and it's a bit like plasticine, really. In fact, it's very like plasticine. There are more cost-effective versions around, but I find that they don't last as long. They don't have as much open working time. So I'll just make sure that I've got this where it needs to be for you guys to see. So the first part I'm going to be working on is, I'll just show you my design. This piece here, and I'm going to put these pieces down. Now that's Multi, silver beads, and some little bugle beads as well. There's two different colours of bugle beads in there, which you probably can't see at the moment, but I'll just work away and see how I go. So I'm just going to put with my spudger, just put it in there, push it into the corners, and then just cut it off. Do another little run because that's not fat enough. And then I'm just going to make sure it goes into all the bits, and I want a bit of height on it because I want to be able to bring things up to the top of the frame as best I can. So there you go. So the first piece, I cut a piece of Smelty yesterday, and this is a metallic Smelty, and I want to just pop that in and make sure that it fits there nicely and fits down into that said corner. Now, so then I've got these lovely little Mexican silver beads, and I have a lot of these and I love them. And then there is a tiny little bugle bead. This is where these pointy tools come into their own. They're the extension of your hands and they don't stick as much, and these are tiny. They're probably 2 millimeters long and fiddly as all get out. But anyway, and of course I'm a bit ham-fisted, so I just might have to wiggle and fiddle around till I can get them in place. They are fiddly. And then there's a longer one, which is a slightly paler colour, and that fits there. And of course my eyes are hopefully not going to let me see clearly. Whoops, I haven't pushed them down yet because I want to get everything in before I commit, if you like. And another one of these tiny little doovers gets better. There you go. And the longer one here. And then another one of these little barrel beads. And then I have a piece of Smelty that I did cut. Whoops! Just lost a whole pile of beads where I shouldn't have lost them. Anyway, I have a couple of pieces of Smelty that I want to put into the side to fit. I did cut these yesterday. You get back in there, you little cherub. There we go. There, that's how that's going to look. I'm not going to record the whole of this because it can be quite boring. So I shall return. So I've glued the Smelty and the little beads down there, and I want to work on my centerpiece now. So I've got this gorgeous little Tree of Life sort of medallion, which just fits perfectly. So I'm just going to put some prep glue on the back of it and seat it on. Make sure that I don't get any, I've got to be able to clean it off the front, and just seat that on. So before I glue it down, I'll just go and wipe it out with a little poker, which I've now managed to displace. Oh well, I'll use my other one, which I've got plenty of them, and just wipe it on a piece of towel off camera, because I don't want any of the glue to show through from the front, and it is a little filigree piece, which is rather lovely, and it looks really quite nice on the blue piece of the turquoise glass. My favourite colours, the colours of the sea. So now what I'm going to do too, if there's any gaps, I will infill them with, I've got some beautiful little crystal beads that I'll use to infill any little bits. So you won't see any of the epoxy sculpt, and the intent is that there will be no grout. I mean, I wouldn't want to be grouting this, that's for sure. And I just want it to be just so, and catch the light. Yes, lovely. Now, just got to have a look at my reference photo for a minute. Ah yes, now I've got some long beads to put there across the bottom of those Mexican silver beads. One there, and whoops, wrong bead. One there. Does it need cutting? No, fits. That's good. Up there, and just I cut a little bit too much epoxy sculpt off down the bottom here. So again, this is where I've got to make a nice little skinny worm. Now once the glue under the tree of life in the centre has dried, I will be putting some beads around the edge as well. Now we're going to put these little blue bugle beads around here. This is where this little pointy tool comes in handy. I can just move things around ever so. Because I can just align them up exactly how I want them. So I'm just working at trying to put some of the little tiny seed beads, and they are tiny, into the gaps so that my epoxy sculpt doesn't show. This is an exercise in frustrations, but strangely I actually don't mind it. I'm normally not a fine details person, but I quite like this. The precision, it's rather lovely. I'm not saying this is going to be the best piece of this nature, but the colours certainly are my go-to colours, so I'm happy. Now, you could string these, but the problem is that they're just going to be used as little bits where they're needed, and so stringing is not really what you need, because I don't want them in rows in here. I want them just to be where they need to be. And of course I don't want the hole to show, so I'm, you know, faffing about here, but that's okay. So I'll be back when I've done this piece and probably put the cloisonne flowers in, and you can see where it's going, hopefully. See you soon. Hi, it's Sally back again. So what I'm working on now is the last of the seed bead sections. They're actually pretty quick to do, so I'm just going to work through and show you how I use these seed beads that are on strings, except for the little silver ones at the base. So there should be, and these little fellas, they have to be just so, because you can't, well, you can't cut them with nippers. You probably might be able to cut them with a pair of metal cutters, but hopefully just 6 go in there, and another 6 along there. And you'll notice that the epoxy sculpt is quite full up here, because these aren't deep, and I want them to be, you know, I want it to be as close to the top as I can. Now this is where I might have to do a little bit of just, you know, making sure that they're back as far as they can go, because I can't, as I said. Ah, perfect, cut them. And now I get my last little mirror, and these mirrors are available on my website. Most of the other products that I've used have been available in my website, on my website from time to time, and some still are. Oh, I don't like that one. It's got a little bit of a hang on him, but that's all right, because these are hand cut, so they do have some snags from time to time. So these little beads are Zanzibar. They're certainly available on my website. I've got some Elytra, and these are the electroplated leaves. I'm not sure whether there's any still in stock, but you know, I'm lucky I do get to use the end of runs and things. So all I do, these are on a wire. These were in stock. They were the ice blue seed beads, and they're on a wire, very fine wire, but a wire nonetheless. And it's a simple matter of pushing them in and pulling the wire through, and you get a nice neat line, sort of like so. See? And then they're actually on a very fine wire, which you can cut with scissors. So you find the end of it and you cut one side. The knot holds the beads, And then you just hang on to the loose end and you lay them in to the epoxy sculpt. And the first one can be a bit fiddly because you don't have much end to play with, but once you get a bit, it's easy. And then you just go and you put them in and you push them in as you go, and you get to the end and you push the last one in, down, and there you go. There's a bit there that I might just have to clean off the frame. I might have got a little bit overzealous there with the epoxy sculpt, but that's okay. And whoops, make sure I leave the knot end, otherwise the beads will come sailing off the other end, which is not really what you want. And you put them in as tightly as you can, and you go round and you get a lovely neat finish this way because they're in rows. Now that's not always what you want. Sometimes you want them more freeform, but in this particular case I did like the regimentation of the rows, so I'm putting them in as tightly as I can, like so, and I just work my way around, and it's pretty easy, as you can see. Pretty easy. Got enough room for another one? Maybe. Yep. Whoops, and I've pulled one out. I'd say I've got a little bit overzealous there, just with my fat thumb. So I'll pop him back in a minute. Get in there, you slippery little sucker. Doesn't want to. I don't want to. Where are you going to? I'm not going to be beaten by a little glass bead. There we go. Done. And that